So I'm Natalie Walters, and I'm a God-fearing woman, a family woman. I have a very fun personality. I like helping people, and I think it's very important for 2021 that we start this year off doing things that we really are not used to doing. In my 20s, I had claimed bankruptcy, and I lived my young adult life very, very secret about my finances. And when I did that, I did not seek any help to correct it from family or any outside people. So what happened was I ended up accumulating more debt. Good, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. That's good. Let's see what we can do here today. We want to change our lifestyles, especially financially. It was very, very hard to see a vision for myself. Good morning, cuz. Good morning. I'm just going over a little introduction of who I am and letting, people understand why I chose to do the live on this particular book. So claiming bankruptcy at a very young age was very difficult. It felt like shame. I had no one to talk to. I didn't even tell my friends or family. Very, very rough. And it was a very bad experience. And I didn't see anything more for my future. My platform is to uplift people to become confident in themselves and their abilities to actually work towards the things that they fear, especially within their finances. That's number one. We are a community of people who are held back in so many ways, but we also hold ourselves back when we don't make certain decisions. You know what I mean? So we have to overcome that, especially with what's happening right now. So entrepreneurship and starting businesses and everything is on the rise. But how do we overcome that? How do we sustain it, if we do not have proper skills to budget and the ability to maintain our finances? How do we build the legacies that we talk about? Very, very difficult, right? So the thing is, I think it's important that right now we start off with breaking the mold and the chains that we have, so that we can develop new skills and abilities which will not only help us, but it will create the legacy that we're asking for, that we aspire and talk about. So that's why I wanted to do this live. I got notes, okay? I got notes with a lot of things to talk about. So I was introduced to the book, The Atomic Habits, by my mentor. And obviously when you have a mentor and someone telling you something, it's important to take it in and then look into what it is and see if it's something that you want to do. So I decided to do it, and I wanted to share it with my platform. Now, I'm not going to talk about the book as per se, this man's entire his way of seeing the book. He's talking about Atomic Habits in general. I'm taking it and relating it to finances because I feel it's important that that's my platform. So I'm going to speak about how it goes here. And if you want to apply these atomic habits to any other area of your life, well, obviously it is supposed to be applied to every area of your life because that's what it is an instrument. But I'm speaking financially related. So we need to start fixing a budget. We need to get financial information, seek counsel. We need to commit to paying off our debts and gaining another source of income. These are the things that we definitely kind of fail with doing. Good morning, good morning. How are you, girl? I'm just going over a little introduction of who we are and what's going on with our finances with the Atomic Habits. And I want to make sure that people have an understanding of how I'm taking this book and relating it to our financial journey. So with that said, we have to, start doing these things and be secure about our finances for the future. We see what's going on with COVID right now, right? And if we're in our later ages, it's very important that we make impactful change right now, so that way it will benefit us and our children. We complain But why are we complaining if we're not making change? And why don't we make change sometimes? Sometimes we're afraid of the different things that we will lose in the process. We maybe lose friends. We may lose the ability to look and be able to have the same things during a certain time frame, because when you're budgeting, you're going to make sure that you're making certain decisions based on wants and needs. And at the same time, that could be very uncomfortable. But the thing is, for you to have a fulfilling and profitable future, you have to create balance, and you have to start. Not you, I'm saying we have to start early. Then there's also this terminology that came up a long time ago, and it's that YOLO business. You only live once. And at the same time, I think it's a disservice to us when we think like that, because we don't know how long we're going to live, right? So if we're thinking for tomorrow or just for next week and we're going to do everything based on YOLO, we're causing ourselves issues. When we get older, we have more responsibilities. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, how are you? Thanks for joining. Blessed morning. So I'm just talking about the atomic habits and how it relates to us in our current circumstance with our finances, and how we want to grow and build habits that will help us to build a solid financial portfolio for our future. All right. So thanks for joining us, girl. Now, we get older, we have more responsibilities, things happen and life gets hard, which makes it even worse. More debts accumulate and it's just chaos, right? Sometimes we get promotions. You make more money, but at the same time, because you have poor habits, unfortunately, you don't know how to manage the money. We can't maintain it, right? So we still end up in debt. Now, how are we going to build generational wealth with all of these things? Everybody's talking about generational wealth and a legacy. And the thing is, we're going to do it by tiny changes, remarkable results, right? If you guys have the book, great. If you're getting the book, perfect. And if you don't have it, just stick with us and the review will help you out along the way. Now, the Atomic Habits, the gentleman starts off his book with his story. Now, what's his story? Life was good. He was living his life. Young teenage boy playing a sport, gets into an accident, and the accident changes his life entirely. When it changed his life, he had to make certain decisions for himself to say, hey, am I going to wallow and continue to think about the negative thing that happened to me and live in that manner? Or am I going to literally be accountable for, or be aware of where I am and decide that I have to do something to make sure that I still am able to live a life that I want to live, or to the best of my ability. So with that, I said he uses his story and he paints this picture, and let's paint our own picture. So life's good. We turn 18, or our parents give us our SIN card, and they're like, here you go. Just be careful with that thing. It's for your credit. Don't explain too much what this thing is. And you're living their life, and you're spending, and you're thinking, okay, I'm paying my bills. Everything's good. Young, have no skills, don't have any understanding of what you're doing. And we just start to live, and then guess what? Unforeseen circumstances happen. And when these unforeseen circumstances happen and you don't have any savings, you don't understand what to do, sometimes, especially when you ask your parents, especially as a West Indian person or Caribbean person, most of the time when you ask about money or you speak to them about certain things, they're like, that's not your business, mind your business. So does it make you want to approach them and let them know about what's going on with you? No, you feel ashamed. I don't know about you, but it wasn't an easy conversation for me. I would get very general information, so that made it even more sensitive for me to even feel like I could go say anything, because I felt I may be judged. So whatever the case is, little circumstances will hit you. You guys know about the car trouble. You know about home repair, or if something happens within, if you have a house, things like that will happen. If your workplace cuts your hours, or you have to actually move, something urgent happens and you know what, you gotta move. These factors happen, and they will totally change the way We have to function and now come up with, how am I going to fix this situation? Now, in Canada, and I know around the world, well, in North America, we have these lovely things called loans, whether it's from a bank or we have payday loans. We have payday loans. Payday loans tend to be the easiest one to get because we're like, I'll just borrow it from today and go over to there and pay it back by my next payday. And that's what we tend to do if we have maxed out our credit. That is the biggest, gosh, you know what? It's helpful if you are disciplined and you use it once. But the thing is, once you get into a cycle with a payday loan, it becomes a lifestyle of torture and turmoil, okay? It doesn't get good. So instead of us being accountable, sometimes when these things happen, what do? We blame everything and anyone around us. We don't look at the fact that we don't have a budget or an emergency fund to help us. We look at every other circumstance around us and put the blame there. Everybody gets in trouble. Everybody gets in trouble for the problem that we're having. We make impulsive decisions, right? We just jump at, this is what I'm going to do. We hide. Sometimes we'll hide away from our responsibilities, avoid them calls, or you get upset and aggressive with people who try to speak to us. Either the bill collector's coming back and they want their money, and we're like, oh, I don't have it right now. Like, what? I have to pay my bills. Like, you know what? You guys gotta wait. I'll get to you the next time. It starts to get a little angry and frustrating for us, but you can only imagine how it must feel for the people on the other end who are just doing their jobs. Yeah, they're feisty, they're rude, but at the same time, they're doing their job. So based on what our circumstance is, our reaction to it is not, how can I get help in a way that will help me for the long term? We go ahead and we just react and without thinking about how the decisions we make now affects us in the long term. We borrow the money, as I said. Okay, so what do we have to do to change our financial vision? Now, in the book, this gentleman, as I said, you know, what had happened to him in his schooling could have changed his life. He could have died, but he didn't die. Fortunately, he lived and he started to recover. And when he recovered, life was stressful, he said. Going back to school, getting back on the team. He wasn't able to produce the same, but at the same time, you know, it was what it was. He had a year of depression and stress and whatnot. And then he had a change happen to him where he had got accepted to university. Now, the thing that I found with that is that when he decided, it's like he had a vision for himself. He saw more for himself. And that's why he made the decision to make the incremental changes that will just steer him into the right direction for his, he was saying, I guess he looked at it as, okay, this is what I got to do to maintain myself or get myself back to the level of being able to play the game. But at the same time, it ended up being a change for a lifetime. So he recognized his worth. He accepted the responsibility that the onus is on him to improve his health. And then he decided to make a change. So what is driving us? What is the reason why we want to increase our financial stability? Some people have children. If you don't have children, it could be for, you know, to help your family, just to be able to help any family member. Plus, obviously, you got to live, so you got to think about your future. There's so many reasons on why we make these changes, but it's important that we think about why we're making the change and what decision is it? What is it about your current circumstances that is impacting your decision to actually decide to make this change? Now, that was the introduction to the book, and then he starts to talk about how his improvements started to help him, right? So on page 5 of the book, I'm just going to read a line from there. He said, After a year of self-doubt, I managed to make the varsity team. And he said, I still believed I could become a good player. That is important. This is a teenager making a decision for himself. You know, at an age where most people are like, ready to bitch, ready to complain. He decided he's going to make the change for his life, right? He said that, like I said, that the college, going to college or university was the best thing he could have ever done. And he didn't make, so when he got off to the university, he did not make, he made it onto the team, but unfortunately he wasn't a first player. He wasn't the first draft player. So with that, hey, when that happens and you're not the chosen person, sometimes that could throw you off. You know what? You were on top, and then all of a sudden you get put here because you're not as good as you used to be. Someone else is a star player. But this young man said, you know what? I don't like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some time for myself. My friends are out there doing this, that, and this, and I understand my position. I need to rest. I need to take care of myself. So what he did was exactly that. He decided that he was going to just do incremental changes, clean his room, get good rest, and do certain things that would help him just be able to perform at to the best of his ability without worrying about outside circumstances. So as that relates to us, I think it's a brave move. It's something that led him into a bigger future and bigger opportunities. He wasn't worried about keeping up with people because either way, people will still be around him. He didn't say he lost friends. He basically said, hey, I just made a decision for myself. And that is extremely important. Him building the good habits of exercise and getting good rest and everything else turned into just a big change, which moved forward into all areas of his life, which he started to feel good about. He started to feel challenged. And that's the same with us. If we make certain change about within our financial situation, like when I decided to start my debt-free journey last year, I got a book. It was called The Millennial Money Guide. I got it from a lady by the name of Nicole Williams. She's a mortgage broker. When I got the book, I decided to read the book and see what was going on first before I started the journey. The beginning of the book talked about your mindset, getting your mindset prepared. So I had to know that there were certain things going on with me that needed to change for me to be able to take this journey on and stay committed. And that's the thing. When we take things on, we have to eliminate the outside noise and focus solely on ourselves to be able to produce the results that we need. So with that said, it became easier each time I had to go through a process of working on my debt. There were hard times, of course, but at the same time, I had a guide. I had my mindset I had already worked on prior to starting my goal, and at the same time, I was gung-ho that my circumstance will change within a certain time if I make a commitment. Now, he didn't become a professional player, which is another thing that could be very difficult because I remember there's things that happen to us, you know, it's like failure, right? You feel like, oh my gosh, I was working on this, and it didn't work out, and oh my gosh, this was no good. You feel like a failure. So the thing is, when that happens, sometimes it just sets you back, right? And instead of feeling set back, we have to recognize that that's life. And we should know these things already, that without consistency and continuous learning, we can only stay at a level. We always have to try to level up in anything that we do. And more so with finances, because it is such a broad topic. There is so much to our financial portfolios that we have to consider, that it's important that we start somewhere and we stick with it, and then we are able to build habits that continue to help us grow. So his life situation turned into a lesson, which ended up being a blessing. This man ended up documenting everything, turned it into a book, went to school, excelled in school. He ended up being a public speaker. He got so much out of his life just by changing his habits. The thing that he focused on, which was so small, which was let me just sleep better, this, this, didn't seem like anything, actually caused a ripple effect in his life that led him towards a life of success. And he documented his journey, which means writing things down is important. We need to learn to write things down and also reflect on what we're doing as we're doing it. That way it's going to help us notice the things that are happening and the changes that are happening. So that way we can keep going or know where to maneuver and make adjustments. So in chapter 1, that was the introduction. So in chapter 1, he starts off by talking about this British cycling team. And if you guys read that part of the book, or if you didn't, can you imagine you are part of a cycling team that goes to the Olympics for years, and 10 or more years you guys never win a medal? That must have felt like crap. I'm not even joking. For the people that perform, or even the trainers, anybody that has to work with them, like that could have felt, the people that invest money, the family members, not to be rude to say that they were they were shit, they weren't crap, but at the same time, how does it feel to commit to doing something every day and there's no outcome, right? So the thing is, this British team, that was their situation for years, and that embarrassment, fortunately these people, they didn't give up. Whoever the head was like, okay, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna reevaluate who we have or who's working in a certain area, or we'll hire somebody to come in and do something. And they hired a performance, a performance director. See, where they recognized something was wrong, even though it was 10 years later or so, maybe even longer, they still said there was time for them to make some corrections. They are still part of the Olympics. They have to do what they got to do. They didn't say they got rid of a whole bunch of people. They said they hired a performance director, which means they sought professional help from someone who was specifically geared to this particular area of study, which can help them or should have been able to help them. And he did. What did the man do? The man came in. He didn't say, oh, get rid of that one, get rid of that one. What he did was he looked at what was happening with this team, and he decided to make some small adjustments. Adjust the bike seat, adjust the spokes, test, do all of these things and test. Small tests, and then after, continuous changes became progress. Progress that led to success. Progress that led to happiness. Progress that led to rewards. Progress that led to a team that then all of a sudden is leaving the Olympics with medals. Come on now. So the thing is, when it comes to us and our finances, we have to be honest. We have to have honest conversation. To me, the most rewarding time that I've had with my financial life was over the last year, when I literally decided to go on this debt-free journey, start a podcast and talk about my issues with finances. I mean, I'm telling everybody my business, right? And this is something I've been hiding for so long. But the thing is, people are sharing information that is now making me feel good and making me feel like, hey, there's so many people that are going through the same situation. You gotta keep sharing this. You got to keep sharing this information, because there's so many of us that make it seem like it's so challenging, but there are just certain sacrifices and steps that we have to make, and they're not really that big. We don't have to set we don't have to set this goal within a short period of time. You be realistic with yourself, and you give yourself the time to really commit to the journey, and you also get help. So with that, you be honest, set a plan, you reevaluate what's going on, you take the steps that need to be taken to have the change that you want to see, And then I just know who, what, when, where, why, how. Those questions are important. Continuously asking questions and reevaluating what's going on is extremely important. I know that when we were in school, you put up your hand or you don't put up your hand because you're ashamed to ask questions. Those are things that are wrong. I do my best to tell my child now, don't sit down in class and act like you know and you don't know. Put up your hand and ask your question. Because one thing is, when you leave and you still don't understand, you're doing a disservice to yourself. I did that for years, and I will no longer do that. If I don't know, I will ask. You understand? So asking questions is extremely important. Sorry. Here it talks about, then it went into page 16. I don't know if you guys have the book, but I'm just going to read. Page 16 is the roadmap, right? 1% better each day. So basically, we can get 1% better or 1% worse each day, okay? It all depends on what we put into our lives. If we work every day by building small incremental habits, then guess what? We will improve over a year, obviously. But if we choose to just not pay attention, avoid it, and just keep doing what we were doing, then guess what? We're just getting worse. We're getting worse. We're getting worse. And it just doesn't look good. They have some figures here. That doesn't matter. The point is, if you don't make small changes every day and commit to them, then you're not helping yourself. It's just like compounded interest, you're saying, like an investment. If you put in money in your investment and you have high interest, then guess what? You gain, right? You don't put nothing in an investment. You don't put nothing in savings. What do you get? You don't get nothing, right? So you got to put in to get. That's what we got. And when I say you, it's not you. It's we. We're doing this together. This is a whole discussion about us rising up together. Now, improve 1% each day. I know it's early morning, gotta go. But we're doing good. Are you guys good? So, this statement here, your outcomes are lagging measure of your habits. Your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. Your clutter is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits. And we just repeat those things over and over again. So what we got to do is we have to be aware, right? What are we doing? Are we setting a budget? Are we thinking about what's right and what's wrong? And setting this budget, it could be, So, yeah, he's also saying that sometimes when it comes to setting a budget or saying, I'm going to calculate my expenses every week, you do not have to make this seem like a difficult process. You don't have to put too many things on you at one time. Start small and build on that. Start small, building the routine. Don't make it feel hard, because when it's hard, it becomes difficult. When we put too much on our plate and we're going out of a challenging situation already, it just feels like too much and you don't want to commit to it, right? So the thing is, it starts small and just build upon. Commit to those things. He talks about your habits can compound for you or against you. So productivity, there's productivity compounds. Did we set the budget? Are we thinking it's too much? Then there's knowledge. Are we gaining knowledge? Are we learning? Are we enjoying what we're learning? Are we being able to see how what we're learning is able to be applied to our lives and actually seeing the results of what we've learned? Our relationships, how are we with people? Are we, being good to other people? Are we treating other people the way we want to be treated? Be nicer. Sometimes you may have to be assertive depending on the situation, because I know some people are very nice and they feel that they're being taken advantage of. And if that's the case, then you need to know what changes you need to make for your personality. But the thing is, always try to be on the positive side of things, because what you put out is what you get. And we have to be more patient and understanding with ourselves in our journeys. Page 21. So, struggling to build habits, okay? Struggling to build habits. We have to work on that, okay? If you find yourself struggling to build a good habit or break a bad one, it's not because of you. He says, it's not because of you. You lost your ability to improve. It's often because you have not crossed the plateau of latent potential. So this plateau of latent potential is very true. It's thinking about it is awesome. So it's just like we get this jar. I give you a jar. No, I'm trying to open the jar and the jar is not opening. Oh my gosh. Man, I need the stuff out of this jar, but it's not opening and I'm ready to give up. I'm ready to put it down. I don't need it. I'll use something else. I'm going to give up on that because nobody's here to help me. So I'm going to put down that jar. And then guess what happens? Good morning. Good morning. And, instead of continuing through trying to fight or thinking about another way to get this jar open in a safe manner, you put it down and you give up, or you give it to someone else. And guess what? That person opens the jar and they're like, yeah, I did it for you. But you know what? It was all the work you were doing prior to getting the jar open that made it easier for that person to get it open, right? You put in work, you were doing, but you just weren't there yet. It had to reach a certain point before it could have been open. Not to say you don't ask for help and get the help if you can, but what about the situations where you're very close to a goal, but because you're frustrated, like sometimes, with weight, we're working out, we're doing our thing, and then it's like, I'm not seeing the weight shift. So, you know what? I'm going to take a break today. And then, you know what? You're taking a break tomorrow. What if you kept working the next week? That could have been the week that you could have seen the body really transform and the weight necessary, like drop off you. That's how it is sometimes. We're always looking for things to just work within a short period of time, where we have to sometimes be more patient with what our desires and outcomes are. And especially with our financial journey, when you're looking to pay off debt and figure out your circumstances, it takes a while to get used to the different facets of getting ready credit, knowing how to invest, saving for this emergency fund, budgeting, and all of these stuff. Plus, we have to teach ourselves and our young people that we're raising, right? It's a lot. But the thing is, if we don't commit to doing it, what's the outcome? We know. We're there. Sorry. So he's saying we need to focus on small beginnings and then we build on it. So small beginnings and we build on it. Let's go. I'm going to page 22. All big things come from small beginnings. So the seed of every habit is a single tiny decision. But that decision is repeated, a habit sprouts and grows stronger. So the thing is, it's even like planting. I don't know if you guys plant, but this year I had the opportunity of watching my garden start and the process of growth. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for joining. This summer I watched the garden grow. We put the seed in the soil and we started growing it inside of the house because it was a little cold in the spring, and we fed it every single day, monitored it to make sure it was okay, the environment was okay. and it just started to sprout. And there were times where it was like, okay, nothing's really going on right now. It sprouted, but then it stopped. Why is this? But we had to continue doing the same thing to enable to allow the plant to feel enriched, to be enriched. And then we had to do a little more. We had to move it out of its environment and bring it somewhere else to let it feed itself, to be able to gain more nutrients so it can continue to grow. And such as with our habits. We don't just try to all of a sudden, okay, I need to have $1,000 by this time, so I'm just gonna expect that on my next check I'm gonna save 500, and that's how it's gonna be. Realistically, that's not gonna work for you, because there's other stuff that needs to be paid. So what you need to do is have a plan. Break it down into a small mission. If $1,000 is my goal by a certain time, I'm going to need to either get another job to help me support, because my one job is not going to cut it. I'm going to reevaluate where my money's going, where I can make savings, so that way that can help me put more into saving for my goal of $1,000. So we just work around our situations different, instead of always looking at the big picture and not breaking it down into steps. Right now, COVID is very, very difficult, and we are in a position where some people aren't working. And I have to say, as much as I come on here and I talk about making decisions about our finances and we have to do better for our credit, it is not to knock anybody with any place that they're in, because when it's your time, it is your time. All I'm saying is that it is important that we have it on the forefront of our minds, especially the older that we are. We have a lot more responsibility, and at the same time, man, I don't want to be part of that government. I don't want to be living off of long-term care and government assistance. No, we don't want that, because it is not pretty. We can see that on the news and what's happening right now. We just don't want to give up on ourselves, right? There's life and there's opportunity. So that's what we have to do. We have to give ourselves the opportunity to make certain habits, which will be, and we're going to go into when he starts talking about having a goal versus systems. So we usually say we're setting goals. I'm setting a goal. I'm going to do this. But this gentleman's like, no, don't set goals. You guys have to we have to set systems. Now, he's saying, what's the difference between a goal and a system? It's a distinction I first learned from Scott Adams, a cartoonist. Goals are about results you want to achieve. So I want the $1,000, right? But systems are about the processes that lead to those results. So what we do is we set goals and we achieve them. And when we achieve those goals, great. I got my $1,000. I'm done with my goals. So all of those things that I worked on before, it's okay. I don't need to do that anymore, because I maintained my goal. I met my goal. But the thing is, what he's saying is, for long-lasting results and results that will hit any area of our lives, it is best to base your interactions on having systems, building systems. And yeah, so, because he's saying here, like if you look at a coach, he says your goal might be to win a championship. Now, both teams want to win a championship, right? But the thing is, one wins, one loses. So what happens then? The team that loses just gives up and they walk away. The team that wins, they just win and they're just like, okay, we don't have to do nothing next year. No, you have to continue to figure out ways to continue accelerating on whatever it is that you do. So having a system allows you to focus on what's been happening, but then also implement other strategies that will help you build upon and continuously to grow in other areas. Okay. Okay, so he says here, last paragraph, goal setting suffers from a serious case of survivorship bias. We concentrate on the people who end up winning, the survivors, and mistakenly assume that ambitious goals lead to their success, while overlooking all of the people who had the same objective but didn't succeed. Right? Morning. How are you? Just almost wrapping up here. So the thing is, it's just like we have to recognize that when we have goals, we're basically focusing on that particular thing. But when we have systems, we are able to continue to build upon on everyday habits and then apply it to different areas of our life. Now, with our finances, we basically have different pillars of finances that we have to work on. And we have to work on our protection. We have to work on our emergency fund, our investments, and debt management. Not in that order, but those are the things we have to work on. It's a big project. It's a lot that we have to do, but it's what we need to do for our lives. And if we have a problem with working on one area of our life and we're not building systems to help us grow, then unfortunately it is going to be extremely difficult for us to succeed. So therefore, it is important that we move from setting goals and set systems that will help us form habits that will last a lifetime. So guys, right now, this gentleman is helping us and we're going to help each other. It says here that we fall to the level, you rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, right? Good morning. Thank you for joining. So what we need to do is focus on having systems, and then we make tiny changes. Tiny changes are what's important. We don't have to make grand decisions and make it complicated. If you want to start off with something as simple as, I don't know what's going on with my account. I am seeing money leave, but I am not seeing anything to show for it. Sit down and take a look at your books. Look at your banking, look at your income, and figure out how much am I making and how much I'm putting out. These are routines that we have to do. We have no choice. Because if we don't start doing it now, how are we going to seriously how are we going to continually talk about generational wealth if we are not actually implementing the strategies that we need to build that and also teach it to our children? Because if we are not doing it and we don't teach it, how are they supposed to form it? I understand that there's a lot of information available, but a lot of these things and foundations should be taught at home. That's why it's important that we have open discussions. We be honest with our financial decisions, and we also seek help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's a lot of people here on Instagram that are sharing information about financial literacy. This is just a live. I'm doing my live. It's about atomic habits. I try to share as much content as I can and as I learn on my platform. But I go to a lot of lives with a lot of different financial advisors, mortgage brokers. I'm also in the financial industry, so I'm learning. And the thing is, as I learn, I apply and I share. But the thing is, for each individual, they have to take their financial situation, learn, figure out one thing that you want to work on, apply the change that you want to see in your life. So basically, this is part one of the Atomic Habits. There's a little bit more. I don't know if you guys have the book. I was thinking that, honestly, I think this is a conversation that would be really, really good to have in person. Maybe even just me creating a Zoom conference, adding a link to my bio or my Instagram page where the information for people to log in will be. And then that way we can actually do it as a discussion, because I have my input and my interpretation of the book, but I would love to hear what other people think of the chapter and how you guys want to apply it, or how you will be applying it to your life. So this was today's introduction of The Atomic Habits by James Clear. I've heard rave reviews from other people, and because we're on this success journey, we're uplifting each other, we're making great movements. That's what I think will be instrumental, is listening to other people speak. Thank you. Yes, thank you. So you know what? That's exactly what I'm going to do. Oh, great. So I'd love to hear your input on what you, and even the outcome after reading it. Like, a lot of people say that the book was great and it did good things for them. I'd love to hear from other people who have read it and started to apply. So you know what? You guys, I thank you for joining me this morning. We did this early, and I am so proud of not only you, I'm proud of myself, because let me tell you something. I like my sleep. But you know what? I said that this is not happening anymore. Good morning, sugar. I said, you know what? It's not happening anymore. There are certain things that are happening in my life that I have to change, and I'm willing to do that and make sacrifices, because I did it before, and I'm going to do it again, and we will continue to rise. So you guys have a blessed morning. Enjoy your day. And next week, we're going to come back with part 2. And as I mentioned, I think I'm going to see who is in the group. I'll send you guys a message and ask you, do you think that doing this on Zoom would be better, so that way we can make it a discussion? And how did you feel about it at 5:30 a.m.? Because I do want to continue it at that time. Nobody's awake. There's no distraction. I haven't had anything distorted, any thoughts from my day. We have a clear mindset. So you guys, thanks a lot. Thanks for joining. Many blessings. Enjoy your day. All right? One love.